Guys, that's how you do a freaking vampire film. Hot freaking dang it. Welcome back to Villain Review. Today I'm talking about Remmick from the new Ryan Coogler film, Sinners. We've seen a billion vampire movies out there, so sometimes kind of makes it hard to make them interesting. But today, we got a guy who says, maybe I am interesting. Nosferatu, you think you're the only vampire who can vampire out here? Guess again. I'm gonna analyze him, talk about his motive, best scenes, character, and more. I'm gonna give him a score 1 out of 10. Let's do it. Starting off with his actual origin, his motive, I like this a ton. Something about this film that I really enjoy is how it's not necessarily scared to be a traditional vampire film, in the sense of like, the vampires don't have any special powers. I feel like lately we always get to that moment in a vampire film to where it's like, oh, garlic, take this, take garlic. And then they're like, oh, stupid kid, that just works in the movies. Garlic doesn't work on me. I have no weaknesses. Not in this movie. In this film, they follow pretty much all of the traditional vampire rules. A stake to the heart. Garlic is bad. You got to be invited inside. And I really like that. While seeing these things was, even refreshing, I would say, it did get to a point where I was like, okay, let's see what this guy's actual motivation is. Because as far as like villains go, I think Ryan Coogler produces some of the best and most well thought out villains we've seen in a while. Killmonger is a fantastic villain. And I'm also glad that they didn't go the route of like just pure racism in this movie. If anything, the guy's like opposite of racist. He wants to be, equality for everyone. At least that's what he fronts kind of at first. There's a lot of stuff this guy says that I can't really take as facts, because maybe he's just saying it, to like lure the good guys out, to, maybe, try to convince them to turn into a vampire. So I'm not gonna trust a lot of what he says. I'm gonna trust only a few things that I believe to be true from his perspective. I'm curious to see what you guys think. If you think no, maybe he was lying about that. Maybe he was being genuine about this moment. I'm curious to see what you guys think about this. We get the first bit of motivation from this guy when he's talking to Haley Steinfeld before he turns her. This is a spoiler-free review, and I'm going to say that that's not a spoiler that Haley Steinfeld turns. It's in all the trailers. He tells her that he's genuinely sorry that he couldn't save her mom because her mom had just passed away. He's sad that he couldn't have saved her, but he can still save her from this earth and all of the problems that come with this evil on earth. His plan to turn her and to turn as many people as possible into these beings that are immortal, that can survive all of this stuff. The reason I trust him here is because I don't think he has a reason to lie to her in this moment. Once she walks out there by herself, it's like, okay, we all know that she's gonna get turned. Even he knows that. It's like 3 against 1. The dude can freaking fly. Kind of like, easy pickings. So I think there's no moment to lie to her, to try to convince her of this like lie. Everything he says about, like, oh, let's making a community of everyone that loves each other. At first I thought, okay, he's just lying about that to try to get the twins to come out. But we see later on that he has this very community kind of situation going with all of the people he's already turned. Granted, again, there's a lot of questions in this film. I don't know how much free will these people have as vampires while he's still alive. I think they lose some of that if he's not around, but I think with him there, not sure how much they're participating out of their own free will, but he is very much cultivating a community, right? We see, people dancing and laughing and having a good time, something that I think he's envious of what's going on in the beginning of the film while, the juke is at its height. But we also get another piece of him wanting Sammy, because Sammy's music is so transcendent. It transcends time. It can reach people in the past, people in the future. He wants to see his people again. He wants Sammy for the music, for the characters and the stories and the hurt and the joy and everything that comes with it. And I think this is his main motivation, because again, at the end of the film, I'm not going to spoil it, there's another moment to where it's like, in his mind, he wins, right? There's no reason to convince anyone of anything. And he goes on kind of this spiel about this is what he believes in and this is what he wants. There's no reason for him to lie in this moment. So it's crazy to say that as evil and just like demonic as vampires are, this guy kind of does fit into that category of a villain who thinks they're right and a villain who, thinks that they're doing good by the world from his perspective. And again, I believe that he thinks that. It adds a lot more depth to the character and a lot more depth to vampires in general, because he's not just turning people for the blood, he's turning people with a purpose. And I think that's really interesting. It makes him as a villain. I'll just tell you this, without this motive, he's not nearly as interesting. I'm not even doing a video on him. It's this motive that I found to be the most compelling thing about the character. Just seeing the history and what he wants and almost the humanity that he craves out of Sammy and the songs and the music. It's beautiful. It's such a unique motive for a villain first and a vampire second. It's crazy. I absolutely love it. If we are talking about his character, his personality, again, I kind of touched on it a little bit. It goes hand in hand with his whole motivation. And I would say the main thing here, I think, with performance is he feels unique in vampires, because sometimes if you just got these vampires, you know, it makes them not feel unique at all. And I think that sometimes other monsters, I'll take zombies right now in today's example, that's why sometimes zombie movies don't work, is because zombies, they have no personality. They have nothing to distinguish themselves among other zombie films, aside from like, look how fast they are, or like, look at they do this gimmick, you know, they throw apples at people. Like, that's their thing, that's their gimmick. This guy we will remember for his personality. He sticks out in this movie for his motivation, for the kind of person he is, for the performance. I think that's really cool. And let's talk about the scenes. I gotta touch on this guy's scenes. It's great, dude. This is a film I want to jump right back into. I want to watch it just instantly right again, because it was so good, and I like that the film gives him scenes to develop. Now I'm going to jump into a little bit of spoilers, so just be warned. I'm obviously talking about a lot of his scenes. The first scene he has is really cool because it really puts an emphasis on, you know, he has to be invited inside. This whole entire film puts a emphasis on that concept. I know what's happening. Guy jumps onto the scene, freaking sizzling, you know, like a hooker in church. And it's a great scene from there. It's a great scene, you know, the wife walking in and he's like, don't worry about him. He's just waking up. You see just how nonchalant he is about it. Again, more reason to think about him believing he's doing good, because he's not like, whoa, like he's almost like surprised that she's like crying. Like, well, why are you crying? Like he's gonna be up in a second. He's just resting. He's naive in what he's doing, naive, maybe hopeful. This is a strange kind of like review. Nothing's written down in this review. I'm kind of just like brainstorming as I'm talking about him, but still, there's a lot to think about here. I have to do a whole video on this movie later because there's a lot to dissect. The scene with them pulling up, he's playing his banjo, pretty good scene. Obviously, I can't just name all of his scenes though, but genuinely, he's very compelling. I would say all of his scenes are pretty good. If I had to name a few more, I gotta just jump to the ending. There are a few more ones in between, like I said, the whole dance situation, the song and dance that he's having with everyone, this moment where they all rush him, you know, like a crowd rushing a singer at a concert. That's the moment, especially compared to where he is in the beginning, where he's all alone. This is the moment he has this community that's swarming him and loving him and just adoring him for his music. He's a great villain because he's a good parallel to Sammy, who also is, you know, a musician, but his music is life and it brings out the soul of the past and the present and the future. Remmick's music, it's a haunted and twisted version of that. His music brings out like the life, or like not even the life, but like the energy in the death and the evil. It's such a good clash. It harkens back to early in the movie when they're like, oh, we're gonna have a blues battle. We're gonna have, you know, this battle of music. And that's what this film kind of is, this battle between these two characters. You know, Smoke and Stack almost taking a secondary stance to the dynamic, the clash of these two guys. It's fantastic. Like this pure evil and this innocence, this not even like innocence per se, but like this spirituality, this life, this what he represents, what Sammy represents. It's super cool. Okay, I started talking about the end and I didn't even talk about the end. By the end of this film, his design is genuinely fantastic. He just gets creepier and creepier looking as the film goes on. And by the end, I'm just like, dude, this is a fantastic vampire design. One of the best vampire designs I've seen in a long time. Dare I say it, better design than Nosferatu, which a lot of people didn't like that one. The design, the film's amazing. Fantastic that Ryan Coogler took some inspiration from Puss in Boots, The Wolf. There also has to be some inspiration from Midnight Mass, Mike Flanagan. The whole like glimmer in the eyes, that's so Mike Flanagan coded. He's probably not the first one to do it, but just that's where mine goes, the correlation with Midnight Mass. Just like too similar to make that connection. Guys, at the end of the day, I thought this movie and Remmick were both fantastic. I think he's a great villain. He might go under the radar in like the mass, villains, because he's not necessarily the focus of the movie on the surface, right? A lot of people are gonna walk out looking at Michael B. Jordan, look at Haley Steinfeld. Obviously, they're fantastic. They're super important. But this guy and his, that clash with Sammy, really cool. Really cool. I'm going to give Remmick an 8.5, dude. I think he's a fantastic villain. My favorite of the year by far. So far for the year. Guys, thank you so much for watching. That's my analysis of Remmick. Kind of, all over the place. I had a lot of thoughts going on. But thanks for watching. Thanks for your interest. I got new villain reviews coming out all the time. Hit subscribe. I'll talk to you later. Check out my other channel. I have another Sinners video coming out. If it's not up already, go check it out.